Good morning, y'all. Good to see you. Happy Wednesday already. That's crazy. Oh, we got a couple people in here already. Happy Cappy, what's up, man? Man, yes, good to see you. Plowboy, what's up? Billy Bob Bride, good to see you. Short Stories by Kate, welcome in. Terry R, good morning. I got my earbuds mostly listening today. You must be up to something. Let's see. All right, so you guys know the drill. Hope everybody's doing well. We're gonna kind of just chit chat for a little bit and let everybody pile in here. If you haven't yet, check out our last episode from Thursday. Then we have another episode I'm posting tonight, and then it'll be available for members tonight, and then it's going live for everybody tomorrow. And then we have another one coming up. Should be out Sunday, so should be kind of bing bang boom in this month. So got a lot of stuff, a lot of episodes coming out. And then today's live stream is going to be on Herman Lehmann. We've had a couple people ask for, I know Bama Deanna has mentioned Herman. A couple other people have asked for some Herman Lehmann stories. So we're going to get into that. If you haven't gotten Herman's book already and you're interested, the link to purchase is at the top there. Can't recommend it enough, but it's a rather innocuous looking book, but it is super brutal, and we're going to have to work around some terms of service just to tell the story of one chapter from it. But I think you'll all enjoy it. A bunch of crazies. Let's see. Morning, all. What's up, Space Cowboy? Good to see you, man. Happy Wednesday. Good morning, Bama Deanna. We were just talking about you. I think you've requested this delving into Herman Lehmann's story before, so we're going to go into one chapter, and I think it's an indicative story, an illustrative story of what the rest of the book is like. I'm sure, Bama Deanna, you have this book already, but if you don't have it, like link to purchase is at the top there. I got it for like 99 cents on Kindle. So that's why I don't have the book to hold up and show you, but I got it on Kindle, and I'd say it's an enjoyable read, and it is, but it's a little tough, and it's a firsthand account, and he's giving this firsthand account in the 1930s. So this guy, Herman Lehmann, lived till the 1930s. He was born in the 1860s, which is interesting how much crossover there was into the 21st century. But I don't think, ever really came back to American society. I mean, ostensibly he did, but even we've talked about his performances opening the local rodeos in Mason, I believe, where he would dress in his full Comanche regalia and then hunt, like get on horseback and shoot arrows into a couple calves that they had running around the arena. And then he would, like, what's the word for it? Hmm. Oh, eviscerate the calf, and then like eat the liver and stuff. And everyone's like, yeah, this is great. And we've debated whether or not that's a entertaining prospect, but you know what I mean? I'm not saying people should do that. They shouldn't do that. But if you were just at a random show and somebody opened the show by doing that, you'd be like, well, it wasn't a boring show. I heard you glad to be here. Glad to have you, Bama Deanna. Oh, you don't have the book. The link to purchase is at the top there, the Amazon link. That's why I don't have the physical copy, because I'm doing this mostly on Kindle. But oh, this is a heck of a story, guys. And Herman was kidnapped at, I believe, 11. Yeah, it'd be 11. So super young. Clarify a couple things before we started. Or before we start, Herman's known as a Comanche, largely a part of the Comanche tribe. In this particular story, he's going to be living with the Apache. The Apache are the ones who took him first. It's it's not odd in the 1860s and 70s, not unheard of for Comanche or Apache to raid this far east into central Texas. I believe by this time, I think it was 1855, they started making truces with Comanches, or at least Comanche bands, largely the Pennateca. I believe I don't know about the Quahati. The Quahati were a little averse to Apache treaties, but possibly. But certainly they were venturing more and more into central Texas at this time. And this is in Mason County. One thing I didn't do was pull up a map. When you live in Texas, you kind of take for granted. You think, oh, everybody knows where this is. Not true. So we're going to look up Mason, Texas here, give you a map of where everything is as usual. I think that helps. Let's see if I can zoom out on this, but I didn't pull it up first. So bear with me. All right, this should work. Cool. Hope everyone's doing well. We took yesterday off, which was tough for me, guys. That was tough. I had to do a bunch of stuff all yesterday, a bunch of appointments and everything, and I just felt like antsy, like I wanted to get on and live stream. So I'm glad to be back. Okay, I'm going to share this real quick. So as y'all can see, Mason is in the very middle of the screen. I'm going to zoom in on it for you once we get an idea of where it's at. But it is, 90 minutes west of Austin, a little northwest, and directly northwest of San Antonio. So I'm going to zoom in just a second so we can get an idea of where we're at here. It's not too far from Enchanted Rock. It's right in the very, very middle of the Texas Hill Country, and it is very hilly indeed. It's tough to see from the maps, but we're out in a rather. It's still the hill country. It's a lot of oaks, a lot of rolling prairies, rolling meadows, and Herman's family was right on the very, very edge of the frontier, even at this time. So I think that's kind of all we need to preface it with. We're 5 minutes in. We could start a coffee chat. What's up, Surrender Monkey? Good to see you. Space Cowboy Billy would call that a V for victory. I'm not sure what we're talking about, but Space Cowboy stacks up V's. He's got so many W's. I'd say W's, but he's got very few L's and lots of W's. Space Cowboy does. This morning, Space Cowboy says, this morning I'm reading The Second World War by Winston Churchill. Wow, that's a read. Trying to read it. If I get 3 pages and I'm able to remember some of it, I'll call it a success. Yeah, I haven't read that kind of for that reason. The rather dense texts are, I'm like, man, I got stuff to do, you know. Mike Holtz, what's up, man? Good to see you. Hope the team's doing well. We're right in the thick of the season now. So I hope you did well. I didn't hear from you on the results from last weekend. So hope everything went well. Big match tonight against the top 5 team. Go get them, dude. Go get them. Hammer them. That's what it's all about. That's wonderful. We are 6-0. All right, man. You got a good team. That's so awesome. Best sport in the world. Just go out there and get them, man. You guys know how to do it. It's that's awesome, dude. I'm excited. Let me know how it goes. I'm excited to hear it. Let's see. Surrender Monkey, last book I bought confirmed that I need glasses, which is fine if I wasn't lazy as I am. Well, we're all a little slothful. Don't worry about it. Short Stories by Kate says, go Mike Holtz. Yeah, we're all rooting for you, man. Got to send you some team. Oh, if you send me some team gear, dude, I will wear it on the show. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is awesome. I love anytime we start talking wrestling, I get a little fired up, as you can probably tell. I heard my name and then I got some W's, says Space Cowboy. I had to backpedal a bit to see what I missed. Just that you're a W stacking machine. That's all. Oh, great. I didn't want to ask you for the name because I didn't know if you're comfortable with it, Mike Holtz. Rochester Adams Wrestling out of Michigan. Go Highlanders. Tell you what, guys, before we jump into it, I have to write this down real quick. I'm going to go check that out, man. That is so cool. Rochester Adams. Cool. Well, you guys go whoop them tonight, man. Lay it on them. That's great, Mike. Kick butt. Yeah, Bam, Indiana. We all got your back, man. We're rooting for you. Okay, so now we got that. I'm adequately fired up. We're going to jump into the story of Herman Lehmann. Like I said, we need to understand that he's taken by the Apache first. Let's see. One more thing from Mike here. For sure, the boys are working hard. The boys are tough, working hard. Thanks, everyone. Awesome, dude. That puts a smile on my face. All right, so Herman Lehmann, born near Mason, Texas. So we have an idea of where that's at. On June 5th, 1859. He's born. So this is another important thing to understand the family dynamic. He's born to Ernst Morris Lehmann and Augusta Johanna Adams Lehmann. Hell of a name. He's the third child, the second boy, I believe. He's got an older brother, Gustav, a older sister, Wilhelma, and then he is born in 1859. And then Willie, his younger brother, an important detail to remember, we'll kind of go back and check in on this. Willie, who is 2 or 3 years younger than him, born in 1861. In 1862, Moritz, the original father, passes away. I wasn't able to find out from what, but I'll dive a little deeper into it. Then his mother, Augusta, remarries for herself. She marries a previously married man named Philip Bookmeyer. Then they have kind of a Brady Bunch situation going on, right? Except it's in the Old West and it's terrible. But Philip Bookmeyer is obviously Willie and Herman's stepdad. He just says that he worked him a lot. He wasn't a ton of fun, but just this kind of typical stepdad dynamic. Like nothing changes, everything's kind of the same. Everything changes and nothing changes. But they're farm kids. They're always out working. And one day, May 16th, 1870, Willie and Herman are sent out to gather some sheep, I believe it is. The sheep are big in the hill country for a lot of reasons. They're cheaper than cattle. They can produce wool. They can milk, all this kind of stuff. Obviously, cattle can too, but they just take up a lot less resources for a lot more return in this situation. Oh, Bamadiana with the $5 super chat. Thank you for the live I requested. My pleasure. This was an interesting one. Happy to do it. This is a good idea, and I haven't really revisited Herman's book in a couple years, so I kind of lost touch with how I'm not trying to oversell how horrifying this is, but it's horrifying. And he's just like recounting what he did. And he's a kid. It's not on him, but they did some crazy stuff. And he's just saying it. And he doesn't sound terrible. Like, I'm not judging the guy at all, but he doesn't sound terribly contrite a half a century later. And then there's these like little paragraphs in between where he'll say, "Oh, I really feel terrible about this. Definitely. I really regret it." And then he goes back to like, "So we were out there just tearing it up and having a good time." And you're just like, okay, man. He was put into a crazy situation, and he certainly did what he had to survive. Elite Super Grunt, what's up, man? Welcome in. We're just starting right now, so you're right on time. Oh, Martin Nickel, come on in, man. Glad to see you. Is this your first time here? I'm trying to remember everybody's name. So good to see you, man. Glad you made it. All right. So, but yeah, Herman is out with his brother on May 16th. So late spring, getting relatively warm. And all of a sudden, a band of Apache appear and they pretty much just take them. They grab them, they run off. The two boys try to run. It's no use. The Comanches grab them up. So Herman is 11 and Willie is 7. And this is kind of a standard capture. They put them on the back of a horse and you go. In the Apache's case, it's due west. So the Comanche will usually go northwest to the plains. The Apache are going due west into like the north or the New Mexico desert, which is their kind of new reign in the last century, new territory in the last century. They go due west and there's no food, no water, nothing. They're just going and going and going. And obviously, this is very, very hard on the boys. Eventually, they are intercepted outside of Fort McCabbett, I believe it is, by a regiment of buffalo, so a company of buffalo soldiers who get into. I don't even have. If we talk about the battle they had, we won't really get to the Herman story. So we're gonna come back and do another stream, maybe episode. I think that might work for an episode, but we'll tell the tale of the buffalo soldiers engaging the Apache here and how Willie managed to get away during this conflict. Willie sneaks away, and the battle is so intense that Sergeant Emmanuel Stance receives the Medal of Honor for his part in the mission. That'll kind of have to give you an idea of how intense it was. If you survive a Medal of Honor, most people don't survive getting whatever they had to do for a medal of honor. But they managed to get Willie. Willie escapes. Now it's just Herman, and he's under the charge. The man leading this raiding party is a man named Colonel Viste. A lot of the Apache will have Spanish names. So Colonel Viste. Colonel Viste brings them all the way back to their village, and Herman is like treated very roughly for a while. He's made to go get water, just do chores, but they make him do it in kind of the hardest way. The water jug is too heavy for him to carry. If anything that he does wrong, he's just kind of smacked around for it. He's just kind of the whipping boy for a while. And he doesn't give a chronological account of how long he went through that. He may not even remember, right? But he didn't give a week by week, year by year account of this. He kind of goes right from his rough treatment to he's brought on a horse raid back into a little north of Mason County first, but it's a full-on raid, and they seem to bring him along as kind of an apprentice. So if he's taken when he's 11, my guess is that this happens 2 or 3 years on at least. So he's in his early to mid teens. They go out into just north of Mason. And I'm going to have to pull the book up now because I have everything highlighted. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss any details. And then, guys, it gets a little nutty. Oop, too many tabs open. Okay, here we go. It's live. You guys know how it works. Library. Got it. Okay. If you have the book, this is on chapter 10 called On a Raid. So we're under the leadership of, oh no, okay, wait. This all starts, forgot about this part. This all starts with a warrior who's on the raid. A guy goes with them named Tushkiwoski. That means Whitewood. Him and his old lady, right? Him and the wife. What's up, Nick Sweeney? I'm in. Let's take this from the top, please. You made it just in time. 15 minutes. You're on California time. You're 15 minutes late. That's fashionably late. So welcome in, man. Good to see you. If you just got here, yeah, pretty much. We're just at the part where Herman Lehmann's gotten taken. He's at the village, and they're just starting to make him kind of an apprentice warrior. So they start on this raid. As they're getting the gang together, right? One guy is his old lady just cheated. His wife just cheated on him with this local Mexican trader. So I gotta look at his name again. I'm gonna start calling him Whitewood because this is Tuskiwoski says, I'm going with you guys and I'm not coming back. Like I've had enough of this. There's nothing for me to live here for anymore. And I believe he did some oh geez, how do I say this? Yeah, he did bad things also to his spouse, and not very nice in his retribution for that. Anyways, he decides, you know what, guys, this village life for me, I can't take it here anymore. I got nothing left to hang around for. I'm going on this raid with you, and I'm not coming back. And they're like, okay, I don't know. That seems a little intense, but okay, come along with us, Tuskiwoski. And he goes for, I think it's just several miles, a day or two of travel, and they come upon they get to a place called Kickapoo Springs, and they see just a guy. They call him a white man, just out riding his horse. Oops, lost my place. There we go. Tuskiwoski just instantly says, "That's it. I'm gonna go get this guy." And everyone's like, "Well, this is like just one dude. There's no real reason. We're kind of on a bigger picture raid here." And he's like, "No, this is my guy." And they look at his shield. He's about to take off, and he's got the fur side, and inside of the shield there's a fur lining, and the outside has all the paint and the designs and everything like that. And they say, whoa, if you're gonna go, you can't have the fur side out. Like that's bad medicine. That's not gonna work. You're gonna get unalive doing this. He says, don't worry about it, I don't care, and takes off. And he does manage to chase the guy down, and he gets a couple bangs off. They go into a running fight for about a mile. The guy's taken off, but he's fighting back. He's stopping, and he, looses a couple shots, and then he takes off again. And it's a fight, right? And finally, I gotta look at the name again. It's a good name, guys. I'm just saying it's tough for me to remember. Tuskiwoski kind of tumbles off his horse, and they're like, well, that's the end of Tuskiwoski. And then a couple hundred yards beyond that, the white rider kind of tumbles off his horse. And they're like, oh man, I guess he got hit too. They get Tuskiwoski. He's unalived. They bury him with like a full Apache ceremony. They also, which is the common practice within the Comanche, within the Apache, within Plains tribes, they unalive his horse, which I don't know. Like, I get it. I get the gesture, I guess, but it just seems like, why are we doing this? And in a Comanche chief's case, this could be a lot of horses. This could be many dozen horses that you're going to have to work your way through, right? It's just a grisly task to think about, but this is how this whole world worked. This is a rough world, and this is his first exposure to it. Anyways, they bury Taco Tuskiwoski. Then they go up to the white rider. They take his horse, but they don't do anything to him. They like give him respect as someone who fought back, which is, relatively it's relatively uncommon. Like you had to fight back pretty hard. But this guy, they were like, "No, man, that's respect." Like a good enemy, they did respect. It's a rough culture. Unreal estate just came in. Got to meet your horse in the afterlife, I suppose, is their thinking. Certainly, that's the idea. It's the Mongols did stuff like this. The Egyptians did stuff like this. You are sending their possessions into the afterlife, but it's like I don't know. If my buddy passes away, God forbid, and he has a $60,000 Tacoma, I'm gonna be like, how about I take this and I'll use it. We'll do some work with it, and there's no need to run it off a cliff just because he doesn't have it anymore. Am I wrong? Um, though there is a little tax stuff with that. Vikings. Oh, great point, Pennsylvania Plowboy. Vikings did similar. Absolutely. That's a great point. I didn't think about that. But so they carry out these funeral rituals, and this isn't terribly uncommon. They're just like, well, we didn't think he was coming back, and you're going to lose guys on these raids. So they move on. They go, I believe, just a little. Yeah, they're back to being a little bit north of Mason. Then they go down to, I got a lot of stuff highlighted here, guys. Okay. Okay. Then next move, they're heading up to Fort Tarrant, which I got to look up where that's at. But they come upon a camp of rangers, and the rangers don't notice them at first. So they're like, they see the rangers have a herd of horses. This is what they're there for. They steal a bunch of horses, and a bunch of the horses are hobbled. If you know what that is, like they'll either take rope or these chains and hobble the horses 2 feet together so that they can't run away, so they can't be stolen. Um, there were a couple of the horses that had been hobbled with some rope, and they were able to move. But the Apache get a couple 100 yards away, and they're like, all right, these horses aren't going to make it. So he says that they amputated the horse's feet so that if we can't have them, the rangers can't have them. I find that a little hard to imagine. I don't think that that's what happened. Maybe there was some. I hate having to work within these terms of service, but they disabled the animal through tendon dissection. That makes sense. You know what I mean? It was a tendon issue, not an amputation issue. I think I can say that. Short Stories by Kate says, unalive the horse. There's probably enough horses in the afterlife already. That's a good point. There's probably enough horses up there. And you're bringing one more in. Now we got to feed this sunbuck and take care of him and shoe him and all that stuff. Just leave him there. It's fine. Now you take your NFTs with you. Fair enough. That's a good point. Your bathing ape NFT. So there was no ASPCA. True, Bamadiana. And the Apache, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, they were rough with their animals. Like it just every account I see was they just viewed them more as resources in many cases, not always, but and that's how a lot of tribes did. They viewed the world as a great big grocery store. You didn't really think about, you know, this buffalo's welfare as far as suffering that much, or horse's welfare. They did. I'm being a little absolutist with that, but it would be a much different paradigm than we see today, even in American or European society. They just viewed them more as resources, not entirely inhumanely, but we'd be a little off put by how they treated their animals. Um, but I digress. So they come upon these horses. They try to steal the horses. He mentions one fine gray horse that they really, really wanted. It was a great horse. And even he's like, well, regrettably, we couldn't take him. He was hobbled. So, we had to cut his feet off too. It's like, okay, so we're getting into some really intense territory here. Then from there, they came upon a road and discovered, okay, this is the intense one. They come upon a road not far from the Rangers camp, and they're driving these horses along, and they come upon a wagon that's coming down the road, in which I'm reading from the book here, in which there was a man, a woman, and 3 children. Before they were aware of our presence, we surrounded them, and it was but the work of a few seconds to unalive and unscalp the man. Oh boy. All 3, the parents and the youngest child. We'll say that, okay? Everybody get that? One's in the chat if you understand what I'm saying. We had a family of 5, and the Apache and Herman have unalived and unscalped 3 of them, the parents and the youngest. I think I can get by with that. I think that the terms of service, please, will let me get by with that. The Apache didn't really use horses as Plains tribes did, maybe only the Jicarilla. Right. I'm not trying to that's a good point. They weren't a horse tribe like the Comanche, and they would generally fight from foot. They would ride to the battle or the engagement and then fight from foot in general. Surrender monkey, D-scalp. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, Mike Colts. I thought you were picking up what I'm putting down. So the band now. This is Herman's initiation into oh guys. Oh, I skipped one story. Tell you what. Tell you what. This kind of sets up the wagon story. So before this, at the very after our boy after our boy, what's his name? Tushkiwoski had his unfortunate end. Herman had been forced to do. They had come upon another guy, a lone guy riding in the hill country, and Carnot Viste said, "Let's go get that guy." And Herman goes with them, and then Carnot Viste hands him a revolver and says, "You go get him." And Herman's like, I can't do that by myself." Carnot Viste pulls his own revolver and says, "You're going to go do it, or I'm going to take you out myself." So Herman's like, "Oh, great, right? Got to do it." He crawls through the brush and then he starts standing up and he can see the horse, but he doesn't see the rider. The guy's gotten off, he's doing something, but he can't see him. He doesn't know where he's at. He starts sneaking around the back of the horse to try and see if he's on the other side, and bam, the guy takes a shot. And Herman says it left him deaf for months. So throughout the rest of this raid, Herman can only hear out of one ear. The guy fires a shot and then runs into the brush, leaves his horse, takes off. Herman drops his weapon, and it's like, oh, great, I've really screwed up. The horse ends up taking off, and all of the other Apache run up to Herman, and they're like, bro, what happened? And he's like, oh, the guy actually shot the revolver out of my hand, and then the horse took off. And he knows that didn't happen, but he says, if I didn't tell him that, if they found out that I dropped it, they'd beat me up, right? It would be a bad deal. So he lies to him, but they believe him, at least, accept what he's saying. And they say, well, good first try, right? And the raid continues. So Herman's already shaken up and he can only hear out of one ear. And this raiding machine is just rolling on. So a couple days after that is when we come upon the wagon. Okay, we understand now that the parents and the youngest child, unfortunately, did not make it through the first part of this ordeal. So then, in typical fashion, the other two children, he says that they look about 8 years old. There's a little girl about 8 years old and a little boy about 6 years old. They snatch these children up just like Herman was snatched up and take off back southwest. They're traveling with them for a couple days, and Herman says that neither of them will shut up, basically. They're just crying the whole time, obviously incredibly upset, obviously incredibly scared. The Apache are trying to quiet them down and be like, listen, it's cool, you're with us now. And they won't do it. But they're also trying to carry out some more raids. And because there's these crying youngsters with them the whole time, they can't do it. There's too much noise, and they're getting more and more frustrated. So after a couple days, one of the older warriors, I don't know if I've got his name in here. I know it just says so. Two of the bigger, older warriors. All right, we have to do a little demonstration here. Two of the bigger, older warriors who have grown frustrated with their young captives. And we have to use some flowery language here. They've grown frustrated with their young captives' refusal to be quiet or inability to be quiet. So, what they did next, I will have to demonstrate. I have my trusty demonstration pillow here. So, what they did next, follow me here. What the Apache did next was the following to both of them, but I only have one pillow. Well, I'll show you with two pillows. Can you see me? All right. Number two. Up against a big oak tree. So, hopefully you get what I'm putting down there. And Herman just talks about this. It's weird because it would have been just a couple years after his own captivity, but he's fully on the Apache's side. And then he says they put him in a tree as like a taunt. So hopefully I don't have to be so big. Nice topic, says Tokoleshi. What's up, man? Good to see you. I'm busy reading Blood Meridian. I need to start reading Blood Meridian myself. Maybe I can get it in audiobook. Let's see. Does everybody follow what I'm putting down with the pillow example, though? Right? It's unfortunate. It's horrific. But Herman just kind of carries on. However, he tells this whole story like it's nothing, right? He just kind of, there's not, this is my judgment, I guess, but there's not a lot of like contrition as he's telling the story. He just kind of says it. It's not like, oh, then we did this horrific thing. Oh, then the following horrible thing happened. It's just like, we did this, we did this, we did this, we did this. Then there's a little paragraph, a couple lines long that says, I hesitate. He says, I hesitate to recite these revolting crimes, but they were true instances of the savagery in which I was engulfed through no choice of my own, and I tell them in order to show the venomous hatred cherished by the tribes against the Anglos, we could say. So he's peppering in some, like I said, some explanations there, but 90% of the book is just, we did this and we did this. And there's not a lot of emotion in it. Let's see. I've got a couple other ones in here too. Oh, then they come upon, they take out a buffalo, they're roasting it and kind of hanging out. They would stop for like days and just unalive a cow or a buffalo. And he talks about hanging out on top of mesas and stuff where they're just like, we're tired and we're just going to hang out for like a couple days. And they just kind of have a siesta and a great big barbecue when they're comfortable that they're out of range of any pursuers. So they do this a couple times and they get a buffalo, they're roasting it, hanging out next to a river. And then suddenly a contingent of rangers charge them. He doesn't say how many, but 2 of their braves are unalived. They grab all their weapons and leave their stuff and run into the brushes. The Rangers get all of their horses and everything that's with them. Then they're turned into kind of a running fight through the brush. 3 more of the warriors are unalived. 1 is severely wounded, and they make a long run all the way back to their camp, their home village. They bring in the news of all their warriors that have been lost. Like, it's not just the first guy. His name is tough for me, guys, as you can tell. It's not just Tuskawoski. It is, I believe, 5 total guys that they have lost. And it's interesting that, I mean, it's not shocking, but it's interesting that the raiding party has wrought all this horror, done what equates to war crimes, right? It's terrible. And then, but so they have like no empathy or seeming humanity for the targets of their raid. But when 5 of their warriors are lost, 4 or 5 of the warriors are lost, and 1 severely wounded, the village just erupts. He says it's just a cacophony of wails and women carrying out. Women would cut their hair and do this with sharp things, severely injure themselves in some cases. But it turns into this just horrible scene of mourning and wailing, and obviously taking out, unaliving the warriors' horses and all these things. It's just a days-long process of all-encompassing grief for the Apache, which it's indicative of a lot of how these tribes work, because they would call them, we talked about this many times, but they'd call themselves the people of some iteration of the people. And then that implies that everyone else is not the people. So we don't have to treat them with the same empathy or diplomacy, whatever, as might be afforded to ourselves. Obviously, there's instances of this not being true, but it's a general attitude that pervades all of humanity's history, really. This isn't unique to North American tribes by any means, but it is an interesting phenomenon to look at, that it still happens today. I think we can all agree. But it erupts into this scene of mourning that Herman's never seen before. He hasn't seen a raid come back and people not make it, and how the Apache grieve. So he says it lasts for several days, and they thought the thought here behind the cause of the loss was that they had offended the Great Spirit in some way, and that they had all done some sin, whether through through omission or what's the other one? But they committed some kind of sin that offended the Great Spirit. So they would have to fast for a number of days. They fast for 4 days. Um, they do days worth of prayer and sauna, I believe, if I've got that right. Then after they feel like it, but it is kind of just like there's no sign for them that things are going to be okay. He doesn't mention any like, well, this thing happened and then we decided, okay, we had pleased the Great Spirit. They just fasted for 4 days and then went like, all right, we're back on track now. So they thought it just seems like that's what he says. It's like we fasted and then everything was cool. We're back to business. So it seems to be this like week long process of grieving and contrition, penance, I guess you could say. And then we're kind of back on track. So it seems like he says a couple weeks later, they come across a band of Comanche who it seems like they're copacetic at this point. Are getting along at this point at a watering hole not far from their village, from the Apache's village. And they had just the Comanche had just kidnapped a young German boy named Adolf Korn. And he says that Herman says that him and Adolf both spoke German, and the Comanche did not, obviously. So they were able to converse and kind of share their plight. And Herman tells them like, you're gonna be okay, and they kind of just commiserate for a while before the Comanche leave and take Adolf Korn. But Adolf Korn, who had just been captured, is another seminal story in the tale of Comanche captives. So that'll be its own whole other stream and episode. But I thought that was an interesting ending to just that one chapter. And it really is illustrative of the rest of the book because that's the tone the whole book takes. It's, I think, necessarily a little detached and kind of just more from an observation or recounting standpoint than this act of contrition for Herman. It's just like, you want a book about my stories? Here's the book. Here's what we did. It's just, uh, I mean, you can imagine how horrifying that would be. And you can only imagine the kind of trauma that that would inflict upon you. But then he escaped from the Apache to the Comanche, and he, not like the Comanche, were living a more genteel life than that. And he did not want to come back from the Comanche. And the more of these accounts that you read, it does make sense because he was just a farmhand in many instances when he was back in Mason. Like he was always out getting sheep, always out irrigating the fields, always out harvesting, just a never ending list of chores. And there was never going to be any chance of him leaving the farm. He was going to live his whole life in this couple of square miles. And he had to do what he was told and uh, eat what was available. Usually the food was pretty sparse. And as a Comanche, and even as an Apache, he had an autonomy that was non-existent in American culture at the time. A freedom and a social mobility that was not present in his normal day-to-day life as a Texan or American settler. So it's understandable by that after a while, this, I think it's fair to call it Stockholm syndrome, but it was also a real sense of loyalty and fidelity to the tribe and that way of life. He did not want to come back, and it really made him an interesting, I think, I don't want to say pitiable or tragic, but an interesting, yeah, I hate this. It's a tragic story. I wish I had a better adjective for it, but one that's an incredibly interesting account, one that is an incredibly important story to understand the totality of Texas history and the Old West, because it's one of few firsthand captive accounts. There's not a ton for all the people, and it seems like there's a lot of firsthand accounts when you look at the Amazon bookstore, but for the thousands of people that were taken, there's like a handful of books. So this one is a really valuable account, and like I said, that's one chapter. That's chapter 10. There's a whole bunch of chapters. Highly recommend getting it. It was 99 cents on Kindle and whatever. I mean, affordable is a relative term, but it wasn't cost prohibitive on the soft cover. So that's our coverage of one chapter. That was the one I wanted to start it with because when I was looking through it, I was like, this is wild. This is super wild. So hopefully we managed to skirt the abide by the terms of service here. We'll see, I suppose. But Yeah, if you have any questions about the book, any questions about Herman Lehmann, any questions about our upcoming episode, anything, hit me with them in the chat and we'll get rolling in the chat here. It's good to see everybody. Evan, just Evan, man. Good to see you. The Apache, when small children didn't want to be stolen, angry emoji. Yeah, it was rough. I would never have endured what he saw, says Bama Deanna. Yeah, it was I think you can't I would never argue that it wasn't traumatic, even though he ended up seeming to prefer the tribal lifestyle. Absolutely, Nick Sweeney. Nick Sweeney, you're a poor specimen of an engine, Bammy. that's well, that's a rough assessment, Nick Sweeney. Bama Deanna says, I'm an empath, so you wouldn't you wouldn't be terribly comfortable in the Apache lifestyle at the time. Let's see. Thomas Cloak says, hello, people. Hello, Thomas. Good to see you, man. Let's see. Nick Sweeney. You got to be nice to Bama Deanna. You better get that empathy treated, says Nick Sweeney, before it spreads or gets worse. Well, honestly, maybe that's not bad advice for the world we live in. In Florida, we didn't take captives in general, says Unreal Estate Agent. There was no benefit for it. Only trying to stay awake, hide, and fight was the common thing. Yeah, the benefit for the Apache and the Comanche was twofold. Like it gives you hostages to ransom with, and if you're very likely low on tribe members, so adoption was almost a necessity for them to keep their tribal numbers up. Wonder what would have been more terrifying, getting captured by the Apache or the Comanche. Man, I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't have a take on that yet. My choice would be neither. I would not want to be kidnapped by anybody. Let's see. Derek Boodle. I didn't offend the Great Spirit. I disgusted the Great Spirit. Well, it sounds like you better fast. Let's see. Weren't the Comanche more ruthless than the Apache? That depends. I think that's the narrative that Empire of the Summer Moon profits or posits, but it depends on what aspect of ruthless you're talking about. Let's see. The Comanche were a more effective military force in general because they were just more mobile. Mobility equals survivability. Back to work I go, says Stephen Miller. Well, don't work too hard, man. Hopefully you can listen in, and then we'll be back for tonight's stream too. So come on back and see us, Stephen Miller. It's so nice in here with Terry R gone. Rumor is he's been snapped up in a home office raid. Very well may be true. I think we saw Terry R at the beginning of the chat, but he's since retreated to probably more chores. I don't know. HOKC, isn't it true that Herman invented lemonade, like lemonade? If he did, it probably wasn't something you'd want to drink. I'd say that. Comanche drove the Apache south. Yeah, one of the southern plains, off the southern plains for the most part. At least that's what I read once. When the Hickory Apache stayed and hunted, only the Hickory Apache stayed and hunted buffalo. Yeah, that's pretty much true. I didn't mean the Comanche T-worded captives a lot more. Yeah, I would say the T word is probably that's where the Apache might rate a little higher from my understanding so far. But yeah, I would say who's the superior military force? I think that's been the Comanche. Big fan of the Apache though, and the Apache fought longer. They held out longer. Geronimo was well into the 1880s, I believe. The tribes got revenge on me. $120 at Mohegan Sun Casino. Hey man, if you don't gamble, you don't win though. That's true. If you don't try, if you don't gamble, you don't win. Though Homer Simpson said trying is the first step towards failure. That's always resonated with me as well. My great uncle was an Apache, says Elite Super Grunt. My mom was a picture of him, scrawny dude, skinny dude on top of a small horse. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of food. There's not a lot of sustenance out in the desert. And the Apache were known as incredible runners, like ultra runners today. They would train their youngsters, boys and girls, to run in the mountains with a mouthful of water. They had to drink like half a cup of water, right? So imagine I make you drink, let's say 1 cup. We get a measuring cup. I make you put 1 cup of water in your mouth, and then I say, go run a marathon. But when you get done with that marathon through the mountains, you have to spit that water back into this cup. And if it's not the same amount, you're going to get in trouble. You're going to be forced to do push-ups, let's say. That's tough. That creates some really incredible athletes and tough people. The Apache were masters in ambush. Yeah, I'd agree with that, and they would have an advantage over the Comanche in that aspect. Yeah, that's a great point, Thomas. It may depend very well on the bunch of mess, guys. We have a Fed alarm. The Feds are after us. Woo, woo, Fed alarm. Um, yeah, we got rudely interrupted. I was just addressing Thomas Cloak's comment here that I'm summarizing this, Thomas, but more or less the terrain would be a defining factor in which tribe was more successful, because the Comanche were fantastic, almost, I don't want to say unbeatable, but the Lords of the Southern Plains is a fitting moniker for them. The Apache, however, were masters of ambush and masters of fighting in the mountainous terrain. And this has been evidenced through decades of combat against the U.S. Army alone, not to mention the Spanish and the Mexicans. So I would tend to agree. It would be a much more interesting contest to see the two tribes. We don't actually want to see this, but had the two tribes been in an engagement in the mountains, that might be a different outcome there. That's true. Heading out to the rural areas. Show is getting choppy on my end. Now, Lead Super Grunt, it just got choppy on my end, so that might be me. And I'm in Austin, and it's not a rural area, unfortunately. I'm up against the woods, but just past those woods. Got a lot of Teslas here. Bama Deanna, can I get a loan at the casino? I got the arrow shaft. Derek Boodle, you got to pace yourself at the casino, but nothing ventured, nothing gained. This is not financial advice, but nothing ventured, nothing gained. Bama Deanna, you won 10K off $100 in horseshoe tunica. Yeah, Derek Boodle, you need to go with Bama Deanna. Did the Comanche not move in a horde and take out smaller groups of Apaches, says Tokoloshi? I mean, the push of the Apache out of Texas happened over a century or so. They did that, yeah, but it happened over many, many decades. It took a long time to drive the Apache. They drove the Apache to West Texas first, and even still, just around the El Paso area is where they still held on to some territory for a while. Let's see. Thomas Cloak says, I mean, soldiers when in Apache territory must have been on the edge when riding through the mountains, as they could get ambushed at any point. Yeah, if you haven't watched our episode on Apache Pass, which is from a couple months ago, that was a really interesting episode, because that's what happened. This army contingent, this company was trying to find water in the desert, and Apache Springs, it's known as, was in the middle of this canyon kind of setup. And they knew that was a dangerous place to go, but they had to get water, and the Apache knew that they had to get water. So they just sat and waited for them. And they waited for them to get almost all the way in the canyon to the watering hole, and then sprung their attack. And it was a vicious battle. So, yeah, they were masters of attack. Because even when you knew the ambush was coming, you just couldn't see. They would just disappear into the land. So they're masters of camouflage as well. What is your favorite weird Native American story, says Kevin Cesares? Weird one. Let's see. I think anytime they unalive the horses I've read several accounts of that, from Navajo to Apache to Comanche, of them unaliving the horses when the chief or the warrior passes away. I'm trying to think of like weird stuff. Some people would say, I'm going to leave this subjective, but some people would say the favorite Plains tribes treat of squirting the gallbladder into freshly harvested buffalo calf's stomach, and making this kind of frontier yogurt was intense. Trying to think. And one of those creepiest stories I've heard is a Tonkawa scout and a contingent of Texas Rangers riding through the Texas Hill Country, and it's getting dark really quick. And the Tonkawa guide hears a wolf howl like out in the distance, a couple hundred yards away, and he stops, like just really suddenly, boom, stops his horse and just starts listening. And everyone behind him is like, "Well, this isn't good." And then eventually he kind of relaxes and he goes, Lobo. Like it's actually a wolf because the Apache, the Comanche, a lot of tribes would use a wolf howl to communicate with each other. There were wolves in Texas at the time. So you can just to me that's a spine tingling um, story where it's like, ooh, you can imagine being there and you don't know if a wolf howl that you hear, if it's a person or a wolf. And every time you hear one, you got to tense up. It's pretty, pretty hair raising. Make a fantasy battle of Comanche versus Apache. Yeah, we need to do another history fighting championships. That's been on my mind as well. I got a lot of good matchups set up for it. What is your okay? Got that. There's a movie about the battle too. If you've watched it, Apache Pass. Is it like an older movie? I haven't watched it. Were Navajo and Apache allies or enemies? I think mostly enemies. But like a lot of this, we'll say that, like we'll say the Apache and the Comanche were enemies, but they weren't always enemies. They weren't even during the periods of time when they were fighting. There was periods of time when different bands of the tribe would get along or trade with different bands of the other. It's not as much of a binary as maybe uh, warfare in the European theater would be. Have you read Flashman and the Redskins? I have not. I've never even heard of it. I'll write it down. I've never even heard of that. What's that about, Takoshi? Flashman and Redskins. All right. That is appetizing, says Bama Deanna. It depends, right? It gets your probiotics in. I wonder if there were. And one other interesting food story is the chapter right before chapter 10, which is, believe it or not, chapter 9. They are back in the Texas Hill Country, somewhere not far from Mason, because Herman says, like, well, we're not far from my old home, which is like, man, that's kind of sad, right? But they find a beehive overhanging this cliff. Like the Texas Hill Country is all meadows and cliffs and rivers and stuff, right? So they find a beehive and they're like, bro, we need to get some honey. Honey is gonna change our lives, right? Like that's gonna be a super dense calorie source and great for food seasoning and just delicious, but it's hard to get. So they see this uh, beehive, several feet, couple dozen feet below the cliff, and they're like, "Well, how are we gonna get to it?" And they go, "I know. We're gonna tie a bunch of ropes together, and we're gonna tie the rope around Herman's waist, and we're gonna lower him down like dozens of feet. Let's say 30 feet, just to be charitable." On this rope, just like rawhide rope, we'll all hold on to the rope. We'll lower you down there, and you go down to the beehive, and you will take this big rawhide sack made. I think it's made out of a buffalo's stomach, and stuff as much in there. So Herman is like swung down there. He says he's bouncing off the cliff, and then he'll swing away from it and bounce back and hit the cliff and swing away from it. And finally, he gets to the beehive, and he's taking honey out as much as he said there's so much honey in there. There's like honey way back in there that's turned black. That's he says we're talking just many, many, many hundreds of gallons of honey. So he's getting in there and he scoops the honey out, gets as much as he can, and then he starts getting stung and swings back. And then he comes back and starts getting as much as he can and swings back. And this goes on for minutes. He's getting stung. It's terrible. Finally, he says, okay, I have enough. Pull me up. And they pull him up, and he's kind of like patted on the back, like, good job getting the honey. And then the Apache eat like most of the honey. They bring it back for the village and everything, but Herman doesn't get a ton of the honey. I think the Apache raided the Navajo for horses. Yeah, that's my understanding too. We actually did a story on the Navajo raiding the Apache, which is a rarity, but it happened in Quanah's village when he was young. Even though Apache didn't use horses as much as buffalo hunting tribes, they still used them. Absolutely. And the Apache weren't averse to using them as a food source. A lot of the Plains tribes would do it if they had to, but they were very reticent to consume such a valuable resource if they didn't absolutely have to. Where the Comanche or the Apache, I keep mixing those up, but the Apache were certainly not averse to it. Derek Boodle, I can't read that because I think I'll get in trouble. Did Elite Super Grunt, we need an episode on ghost stories and the paranormal in the Old West, ghosts versus aliens. I heard sci-fi novels were popular back then. Yeah, they were like in a dime novel form. We did one on scary stories from the Old West on Halloween night. So if you want a good primer, go check that one out. And I would love to do more on paranormal in the Old West. There's several places around here, just there's one in Seguin that's like a famous haunted hotel. Everything in Seguin is haunted for s sakes. And then there's the Driscoll Hotel here and the Alamo, obviously, and lots of stories of ghost herds and ghost horses and all kinds of stuff. Though I haven't found a lot of actual cowboy versus alien stories, which is kind of a bummer. I got to look more. I'm curious about the 19th century fictional scientific literature. Yeah, there was like, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and there was still a fascination with the science fiction in a way. It wasn't as maybe developed as we are as our science fiction would be today, but I mean, steampunk kind of started in the late 19th century. Bammy, I got a splendid recipe for chupacabra salad, says Nick Sweeney. Is that grilled chupacabra or braised? How do you cook your chupacabra, Nick Sweeney? People read the Bible back then, says Tokoloshi. Yeah, if you had one book in your house, it was likely the Bible. Let's see. It would be a family Bible. It'd be something passed down with everybody's name in it and everything. Penny Dreadfuls were popular. Yeah. A lot of like true crime. It's not terribly, a lot of tabloid stuff. It's not terribly different from what we have today, just in a little different context. And a lot of just like completely made up stories about frontier heroes, Kit Carson, Jim Bowie, Davy Crockett, obviously. And 90% of it just completely made up, completely fictional. And the guy's got no royalties from it. Let's see. The Duck of Unaliving, says Tokoloshi. I don't know what that means. It'd be a good like metal song. Sometimes the Apache would eat. Oh, good. A real estate agent says sometimes the Apache would eat their horses if they had to. Cool. I'm glad we're eye to eye on that. Let's see. I'm scanning back through the chat now. Kevin Casares, I'm going to go look up some more weird Native American stories, though. Certainly, there's the Wendigo and the Skinwalker. We talked a lot about those. We really haven't talked a lot about the Wendigo, so we may do a whole nother stream on the Wendigo. And my creepiest Old West story, I would have to say, is the Donner Party. The creepiest Old West one, the most horrifying Old West story, the Donner Party. And I'm going to do a stream, another episode. I've done one on the Donner Party very, very early in the channel's history. But I'll do another at least live stream on them. If you want a good primer for that, the Lore Lodge has a great, I've been watching it, 2.5 hour breakdown of the Donner Party. So that's if you're interested in the Donner Party and you want a little more before I get to it, that's a great resource. Nick Sweeney is so happy that Terry R isn't here. But that's iron sharpens iron, Nick Sweeney, right? Like you need your rival here to keep you sharp. Creepy story of survival, says Bamadiana. Creepy or story of survival, says Bamadiana. Both. Absolutely both. But like what Kesselberg was up to, I've heard him called Keysberg and Kesselberg, but what Kesselberg was up to was super creepy. A lot of corroborated accounts on the stuff he was doing. It's going to be hard to even talk about what he was doing on the channel because I think that guy was up to something, and just creepy in the sense of if you've been in those mountains, the mountains themselves to me are creepy. And the prospect of being snowed in there, like they couldn't go anywhere. There was no food. What's weird is after they started consuming people, like I believe Kesselberg had a full cow he could have consumed. At least there was other meat they could have had, and it sounds like some of them went like full Wendigo crazy. And it started spreading to the tribes too, like the tribes, urban legend, or I guess what would you call them? Mountain legends, but urban legends would spread to the tribes about like, these white people are crazy. They eat each other. Have you heard about this? Like they're eating each other because and very, very few tribes is cannibalism not a ultimate taboo. That's where the Wendigo story comes from, is if you engaged in cannibalism, no matter the circumstances, you were said to be afflicted with this Wendigo sickness that would make you insatiable for your new favorite food, and you would turn into this. Some accounts have you turning fully into this animal, kind of amalgamation of different animals, like elk horns and a full snout, like in half bones and stuff. It's a creepy looking thing. Some will say that you just kind of go crazy, and some will say that you turn into this creature. But it's very, very, very frowned upon in almost all tribes. And when the word got around that the Donners were doing this, everyone was like, "Whoa, bro, that's creepy." I don't really believe in ghosts or paranormal, says Space Cowboy, or haunted houses, haunted cemeteries, etc. However, we did, hold on, we did the haunted hotel tour in Virginia City a few years ago, and I was like, dot, dot, dot. Yeah, man, I'm generally the same way. Like, I'm not super into being afraid of ghosts and haunted houses and stuff, but I've been to a couple places where I'm just like, hey, man, like, we'll see you later, huh? Like, I'm out of here. Yeah, Space Cowboy, you were like, okay, this place is haunted. No, I get it, man. I'm of the same mind with that. I lived right by 2 blocks away from the haunted Magnolia Hotel in Seguin, which has been completely refurbished. It's like a super nice, quaint bed and breakfast now that I could have gone and stayed at for like research purposes, right? And I was just like, yeah, well, sorry, not gonna do it. How about like you tell me it's haunted and that'll work for me. You get all skinny from protein starvation, says Elite Super Grind. Yeah, rabbit starvation is a real thing. That was a real thing on the frontier, especially for kind of neophytes on the frontier. They would think, well, as long as we got rabbits, we'll survive out here. It's like, no, you can eat all the rabbits you want, but there's no fat there. So if you don't have any fat, you will end up starving. I've ran out of places before because of bad vibes, says Happy Cappy. And you're Happy Cappy. Congratulations, because you're the person who survives the horror movie. Billy Bob Bry says Dead Man's Chat. I don't know what you mean by that. Bamadiana says it doesn't matter if it was refurbished. The haunting is in the land, says Bamadiana. Well, they advertise it as a haunted place. They give like haunted tours. There's a whole. I wonder if I can. I'll put a link to this for you guys. A whole big ghost hunter channel went there and did a whole hour long show there. I believe. Gosh, who was the guys that went there? Uh, a big channel. I think 2 big channels have been there and videotaped all night and everything. And it's just like, guys, I'm glad you're getting content for your channel here, but I'm not doing it. Let's go with the paranormal files here. Yeah. Okay. Copy. Let's post this for you guys. If you're interested, here's the ghost hunters going to the. I'll pin this. That is the link to the haunted Seguin Hotel, the Magnolia Hotel. Let's see. It doesn't matter. Got that. Refurbishing don't work, says Happy Cappy. Yeah, I mean, it's a lovely hotel with lovely people, and it is the place where Jack Hayes got married. He met his wife, his father-in-law was the proprietor of the original Magnolia Hotel. He built it. It was a hotel general store kind of thing. And he was the man in Seguin. Like he was one of the preeminent businessmen in early Seguin. Everybody knew the Magnolia Hotel. It's where, so they had the Hayes wedding there. So everybody would have been there. Bigfoot Wallace had a place in Seguin. The McCulloch brothers, Henry McCulloch also had a place there. Let's see, I believe Samuel Walker. Man, everybody. It would have just been like a huge party. Everyone, all the famous Rangers are there and partying, and that's right at the Magnolia Hotel. Like if you go there, that's Texas Ranger history encapsulated. But it's also super haunted. So I just thought like, you know what I mean? But you can watch these guys go in there, and there's like balls rolling on the ground. It's super creepy. It's super creepy. Lovely lady who runs it, lovely couple who runs it, and super well read and educated on the history of the area and the place. I would like to go talk to them, but I don't want to go on a ghost tour. You know what I mean? It is creepy. All the videos of stuff happening in those rooms is like, okay, guys, you know what I mean? Let's wrap it up here. First time I ever heard about the Wendigo was in a comic book, says Unreal Estate Agent. Looked like a white-haired Bigfoot, though I don't think Wendigo have a specific form, right? maybe a common one, but not always. Yeah, we're just talking about that where it's different tribes or maybe even different regions, especially in the Northeast, have different iterations of the Wendigo. Some of them are like a full shapeshifter situation and maybe more visually akin to a skinwalker. They have antlers of an elk and different traits of different animals all kind of shoved into this one horrifying um, thing. But some of them, yeah, they'll just say like it's a mindset and you just go crazy and that makes you the Wendigo. It's not too far from me. I've been wanting to. Oh, it's Elite Superground. I've been wanting to visit and stay the weekend. Dude, highly recommend it. I mean, like I said, I didn't go, but I mean, it's a beautiful hotel. It's literally right on the square. The square in Seguin is, I think, one of the best town squares in Texas. It's absolutely beautiful. They have a big giant statue of Juan Seguin. I'd like to go. I need to go do a live there. So maybe we can do like some kind of meet up around the Burnt Bean or something in Seguin. Maybe that's something we can organize if everybody's not too far from there. Super interesting history town though. And then right across the little road that's there now from the Magnolia Hotel is the town square where Jack Hayes and all the Rangers would carry out their capital punishments, which is kind of weird in my mind because the same place, the same area that they're in an ongoing war, they're having a party for a wedding. They're legit having a party. They're drinking and having a good time. And then about 100 yards away is the place where they carry out their executions and also the public. Because if you got convicted of any kind of spousal abuse, there were several lesser convictions that wouldn't result in capital punishment, but there's a iron little hook about this loop about this big. It's like an eye bolt screwed into the tree, a tree that's right next to the new gazebo where they have like park concerts. The tree right next to that has an iron ring in it, maybe 5.5 feet off the ground. And it was there because that's what you would get shackled to. And then they would give you your lashes. And it's a really cool little piece of history that most people don't even know it's there. You have to look for it, but it's there. I've gone and looked at it many times just for a chuckle. I mean, you know what I mean, for history. Anywho, didn't they use the hotel basement as a jail? They did, yeah. And there's another. I met up with a listener, a viewer. Gosh, it's been a while now. I had some stuff come up that I lost touch, but he purchased the McCulloch Brothers Ranger Station about 5-10 miles outside of Seguin and refurbished it. And so it looks exactly like it would at the Rangers' time. And it has a cellar at the bottom of it, just cut out of the floor about 8 feet deep. And they would open that, they would keep their food down there, or they would put prisoners down there. And it's wild when you see it. You're like, yeah, if you got put down there and they pulled the ladder up, you'd have nowhere to go. You're stuck. It's a pretty effective jail. Let's see. Yeah, man, this channel is awesome. A lot of high quality history. Oh, thanks, man. Let's see. Brett Barreras. Am I missing? Just found this channel. Says Brett Barreras. Looks like I'm set at work for the next week. Awesome, man. Glad to have you. That's why we do the streams. Is I hear from a lot of people that wanted more content than just the regular episodes, and they use this to get through the workday. So that's what we're here for. I don't know if you've ever seen Tommy Boy, but Dan Aykroyd keeps saying that he makes brake pads for the working man. Like we make brake pads for the American working man. And I always thought like, yeah, that's what this show is for. Didn't they use those? Okay, got that. After the last Lone Ranger movie had a Wendigo. Oh, did the last Lone Ranger movie with Army Hammer and Johnny Depp have a Wendigo in it? You want to talk about some people consumption? Look into Army Hammer, guys. What's the deal with that guy? I don't question if ghosts exist anymore, says Unreal Estate Agent. I've had my few experiences that are convincing enough. Yeah, I don't dispute that they are real. It's just one of those things that I try to avoid if possible. And I think like conspiracies, maybe even 90 to maybe 99% of the ghost stories or conspiracies that you'll hear, I think are just kind of made up or exaggerated or misunderstandings. But that 1 to 10% is some wild stuff that you don't want to mess with. Let's see. Kevin Cesaro says, I'll do the ghost tour for you and record it. I mean, dude, if you're down, I just feel like I could do it for sure, right? We could get a hold of the Magnolia Hotel. We could set something up. I would do a regular tour and a history tour, but I don't want that mojo or whatever sticking to me. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just thought like I got enough problems. I don't need the little weird ghost pestering me. Let's see. First time I ever heard about the Wendigo. Okay, got that. Short Stories by Kate says Herman does not seem to be saying this all for shock effect, just more of a matter of fact. 100% I agree with that. He's just saying, he's not at all trying to shock you. He's just saying what they did. And he's not guilty. He's a kid, So I'm not saying, oh, this guy did horrible things. He was forced into this and in a horrific way and, deeply traumatized. But it speaks to how routine these things were for the Apache and the Comanche, that he doesn't note them as an exception or um, trying to be sensationalist about it. Yeah, he's just saying what happened. Johnny Depp's character called the antagonist a Wendigo. I did not know that. I got to watch that. I've heard that movie was pretty, like, not bad. Maybe I'm wrong, but I heard it wasn't that bad. But also, if you want to look into some interesting human consumption stories, go check out Army Hammer. He would have fit in just fine with the Donner Party. Know what I like? Says Space Cowboy? Statues. I just realized right now, as you mentioned, statues are in your town. We should do a show about statues, the hows and whys, the symbolism. Yeah, there's a lot there. Seguin has a great one. Austin has an interesting one of the woman firing the cannon. There's a lot of great statues in Texas, a lot all over. They're an important part of our history. That's not a bad idea. My mom and grandpa told me, be careful. You will take something home with you, says Happy Cappy. Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't want to go in there and bring something home with me. Like the Walmart at my hometown. Uh, it's rough, guys. But it used to smell all over like caramel popcorn. The little snack stand would cook up caramel popcorn all day. So anywhere you went in that store smelled strongly of this kind of like burnt caramel popcorn. And when you left, you smelled like burnt caramel popcorn. And that's kind of what I'm thinking. It's like, yeah, I didn't even have any contact with the burnt caramel popcorn. I never even got near it. But when I left, it was still on me. So I don't need that with ghosts. Let's see. You can protect yourself with crystals or sage, Bamadiana says. My priest would throw a fit, Bamadiana. I can't do that. You are I get it though. I get it. It'd be better than nothing. You are a great guy. They won't attach to you. We should do lives at museums. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they want to attach to good guys. I don't know. Let's see. We should do lives at museums, though. I've been thinking about that. It'd be cool also to do a live from the state cemetery here because there's just so many good graves, but I feel like that wouldn't be terribly reverent. But yeah, there's a great state history museum here. There's all these little towns have really cool museums. I know Seguin does, Gonzales, all these little towns around here have. Lockhart does. Great little museums that would be great to visit and have lots of history that's a little closer to the source. A lot of times they have stories that just aren't in books yet. The Alamo has a statue of the most famous. Yeah, that's right. That's right. We could do a live stream from the Alamo for sure. I was thinking about doing that. Let's see. We'll talk about that tonight. Let me think that over. Not many statues left here, Space Cowboy. They got took down. That's a shame, Bamadiana. That's not even being political, just like as a historian. That sucks. Are they not old forts? Are there not old forts you do shows from? I could do a live stream. There is a Parker's Fort that's still up. That's a bit of a trip, but we can make that happen. But we did a live stream on Ambush in Austin, I call the episode. That's going to be coming out this week. And the fort that we talk about, the Rangers being in Austin, is called Fort Colorado. There is still the landmark there. So I could go to the location of that and do a stream from there. Your priest probably should take a lesson from a medium. You'd have to take it up with him. Not many statues left. Space Cowboy, got that. Are there any old forts? Okay, got that. The Alamo has statues. Got that. Okay, I think we're caught up. There's quite a few in here though. Let me scroll back through it. If I don't answer, I don't question if ghosts exist. Okay, we got that. I think we're all caught up. Oh, got coffee on my mouth. There we go. Again, guys, don't blame it on the mug. Quality mug. It's user malfunction. Coming in soon, guys. Hopefully next week we'll have these in. We worked on the design a little bit, but oh yeah, I think I figured out. I got to set it up today, but I think if I email the t-shirt designs to myself, I can bring them up on the stream. So tonight, that's going to be a goal. We'll try and reveal those designs and see what you guys think. Let's see. Did you know they brought Geronimo to Alabama for a while? I did, yeah, and then they took him to Florida, right? Everybody had a rough time out there. No, none of the plains tribes or the desert tribes liked Florida at all for understandable reasons. Completely different environment. Let's see. The Alamo. Okay, got that. I think I'm all caught up. And what are we at? Hour 15. All right. If anybody has any other questions, let me know and we'll start kind of wrapping it up. We're gonna have another big stream tonight. These are kind of our like hang out and talk coffee streams. I'll have a good longer episode tonight. And I honestly don't know what it's on yet. I have a list of topics. We're gonna take a look. In your opinion, which tribe had the strongest fighting force? Oh, that's a tough one to answer. Like we were talking about, who was it? Was it Space Cowboy or maybe Unreal Estate Agent? We were talking about the different terrains being a big factor. So it might depend on what terrain you're talking about. Maybe in the mountains, the Apache are very, very good. In the open plains, the Comanche are certainly up there. But I mean, so are the Cheyenne, the Lakota, the Blackfoot, the Arapaho. Trying to That's a tough one. That is a tough one. Hmm. I'd have to think about that. There's no wrong answers in here. It seems like the Sioux had the leadership and the tactics. Yeah, that's a good point. I wouldn't argue any of these choices. Let's see. Most I see a lot of Sioux in here. I think it would just be dependent on the arena of combat and even the weather. Like I think the Blackfoot would fare better in a winter campaign than this is just my thought, right? Than maybe the Kiowa, because the Kiowa are used to Southern Plains campaigns. Now they're very used to hard winters, but if you put them in Alberta, they might not fare as well as the Blackfoot. And if you put the Blackfoot in Southern Oklahoma, it might be the same case, but that's just a guess. So there's a lot of factors in answering that question, I would say. I remember you said your dad was a cowboy. Can you talk about Stephenville history sometime? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Spent a lot of time in Stephenville. My family's from just right down the road. My dad spent a lot of time in Stephenville. Let's see. A lot of time in Mesquite, if you know Mesquite. Let's see. But yeah, we can absolutely talk about Stephenville history. We did a stream from Comanche, which is like 30 minutes down the road. So I can actually absolutely get to Stephenville. There's a couple places that call themselves the cowboy capital of the world, but Stephenville's up there. They might have claim to the title. There's a fellow who goes by the username Comanche Nation, but he's always got a bug up his butt about Anglo people. I'm gonna have to invite him to our. Oh, I know Comanche Nation. He's always been cool with me. He's just an impassioned person, man. I've honestly had nothing but good interactions with him. But I mean, I get it. He's impassioned, though. You know what I mean? He's impassioned. Invite him to our little but growing HOKC community. Yeah, absolutely. Invite everybody, man. And it's fun to have dissenting voices too. If we don't want to be just an echo chamber, it's fun to have disagreements and disagree with me. That's totally fine. It carries the conversation. How about an episode on the Great Lakes copper? Oh, it's a good idea. Elite Super Grunt. Those guys had short copper swords. Good call. Let me write that down. Great. Because, guys, we have Comanche and Ranger stories for literally years, but I think it is good to go ahead now and expand more into the Midwest, the East, the far West, meaning Nevada, Washington, and then also more into Ohio, Pennsylvania, Maine, the Great Lakes regions. Yeah. But sometimes people will say, "Oh, are you getting thin on Comanche stories or Ranger stories?" It's like, no, 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 not even close. Like, got a stack of books of these of Ranger stories. HOKC family strong and growing. Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you all for being here. This has been really fun to keep doing these streams and see more and more people coming. Remember, this is really fun for me. There's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. Impassioned. It's like right. I think it's good to have passionate people in here. Are you close to Harper's Ferry? I read another Flashman book about Flashman and the Angel of the Lord. I'm not sure. Where's Harper's Ferry? I probably should know where this is at, but Harper's Ferry. It's in West Virginia. Man, I really should know that. Sorry, guys. That's one of those things I should know, but only so much space in the old noggin. Let's see here. Next time he replies. Oh, do you mix it up with him quite a bit in the chat, Space Cowboy? Yeah, send him a link, dude. I was wondering if he would stop by here. He's been here for years. He's been a really loyal viewer. Oh, Bama Deanna. Harper's Ferry is where the Civil War started. That's right. That's right. We got into a lot of Civil War talk 2 nights ago, and I'll admittedly say I don't know that much about the Civil War beyond kind of the basics of Ken Burns' documentaries, and even those I watched mostly as a child, and that's what inspired me to do this. But I didn't pay full attention. I got the old ADD, you know. Uh, but I don't have a terribly deep knowledge of it, so I kind of was deferring to the chat and learning a lot from you guys. And we're mixing it up in there. We have some disagreements and some different points of view. If you can't tell, I love that. If you read the Flashman series, it will be pure gold for your channel. Cool. I got that. Yeah, I got that written down. Flashman and the Redskins, right? I believe that's what it is. I write all this stuff down and I look it all up, guys. Don't worry. I got those like what do you call those? What's the movie star's name? What's the guy from the Great Escape, guys? It doesn't matter. Can't believe I'm blanking on his name. There are 13 books in the Flashman series. Wow. Yeah, I got it written down, man. I'll check it out. I've never heard of that. So I learn. If you guys learn here at all, hopefully you do, but I learn a lot from you too. I absolutely do engage with Comanche Nation a lot. I'm a waiter, and I've told a bunch of my guests about this channel. Oh man, awesome, awesome, that's great. Thank you too. Like, if you're even a little bit interested in history, I think this is a good channel for you. Short Story says you're thinking of Steve McQueen. That's right. I have the Steve McQueen sideburns. See, right there. Yeah, I guess you can barely see him, but they're there. I'm proud of it. Steve McQueen. That's right. That's right. An American treasure, you guys. Tokoloshi, did you see Good Lord Bird when Ethan Hawke played John Brown? Good Lord Bird. I'll actually write that down. Good Lord Bird. Cool. All right. I think we're caught up here. I'm gonna give it one more look, and then we're gonna head back to work here, and then we will be back. I keep how do I mess up the times, guys? Y'all have been here for a while, and I keep having to think about the times. It's the same time. It's always the same time. It's 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. It's not that hard. I just have a tough time with it. Steve McQueen is the essence of cool. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not pulling off the sideburns, but he did. He really did. Let's see. All right. So I think we are caught up. So I am going to get back to work, get this episode up, get our next episode up, and get ready for tonight's live stream, which I don't know the topic yet, but I am looking very forward to it, which hopefully you are too. And I think that's about all we've got. So go check out the episodes if you haven't yet. Purchase yourself a copy of Herman Lehmann's book if you are so inclined. And come on back this evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and we'll have a fun live stream. So thank you all again for coming by. It's really good to see you, even after one day off. Just felt like a long time. So good to see everybody. Looking forward to coming back this evening. Y'all have a good day. God bless, and we'll see you tonight.